Happy Tuesday morning. Got a few days of school left in our school year. Wednesday's minimum day, Tuesday. Back to that. Today's Tuesday. Wednesday's minimum day. Thursday is regular schedule for some schools, some field trips, graduations. Then Friday's the last day of school. This morning I'm doing an elementary school route. Then after I drop them off, I have about 30 minutes to myself, and then I pick up an elementary school, take them over to Lewis Family Playhouse, which is a local theater where kids get to watch Curious George or whatever the going rate is for a matinee for kids to watch. After that, traditionally, I would have lunch at a local park. Then we take them back to their school. And then my afternoon starts with, what is my afternoon? 3 different elementary school route, a middle school route, followed by another elementary school route. And then I'm done for the day. One of the perks of my job is something different every single day. The world is coming down Catawba. My directions say leave the yard at 7:55. I like to leave a little bit earlier. The route I'm doing has first bus stop is at 8:18, second bus stop's at 8:20, and into the school by 8:30. It's a quick one. Pick about 2 different apartment complexes, take them to one school. Back in the early 1980s, I worked security. Good morning. I say hi to your crossing guards. I worked security at a world famous motel or hotel in downtown Riverside called the Mission Inn. Some people have heard of it, some people haven't. Very beautiful piece of architecture with all kinds of history for the city of Riverside. The hotel itself was built in sections. It has tunnels surrounding it because way back when they decided that the owner, Frank Miller, decided that instead of digging a hole and then burying it again and then digging up when there's a problem, why not just build a walkway, hang all your utilities on it, and then if there's a problem, you walk through the tunnel and make the repairs. So there's tunnels that go from Mission Inn out to different parts of downtown Riverside. How far they go, I could tell you, you may not believe me. It's old wives' tales or urban legends, so we'll just go that there's tunnels around the hotel. Anyways, getting back to Mission Inn. Being that I work security, they had us doing all kinds of stuff. We do private tours of the hotel for VIP guests. We would do parking enforcement. There was a fight in the brawl. In the bar, we would go in and break it up, escort people to their cars, send them packing. If there was a major problem, we'd call PD. When I started working there, I was working for our supervisor was a cop. We carry FI cards, which was called a field interrogation card. So if you ran into somebody on the mall or wherever, you'd stop them and do a quick ID check of them, take information, write down their name, their address, their phone number, identifying marks if they had any tattoos, how they were dressed. And if something about them just didn't seem right, pick up their walkie-talkie and call our front desk, or if our supervisor was around, we called him up, and PD would run him. And if he's a bad guy, a cop car would come by, pick him up, and take him away. Fun times at the end. In 1984, they told us, hey, if you guys go through reserve peace officer training called PC 832, we will bump you up 10 cents an hour. That was good money back then when you're making $4.75 an hour and they're going to bump you up to $4.95 an hour. Sure, why not? So I went to Chaffey College, took PC 832, learned the powers of arrest, how to shoot somebody correctly. It's basic level, it's level 3 reserve training. It would qualify you to be a reserve cop back then. Go on the range, you shoot, show that you can shoot. You learn accident investigation. You learn how to investigate a crime scene, how to sketch out a crime scene. All the stuff that cops do on a daily basis. Well, I took the class. We changed supervisors, and they said, "Oh, whatever he promised you was what he promised you. That's not the requirement at the end anymore." Wonderful, thank you. Took that knowledge, put it in my back pocket. Next year, in October of 1985, I became a school bus driver. Driving routes. After a few months, they made me a behind-the-wheel trainer because I seemed to know how to drive buses a little bit better than everybody else. At the time, I was living in a bus with my wife. We had so much fun driving our own bus that we bought earlier that we became school bus drivers, and I know how to get out of the cul-de-sac. I made all those mistakes in my personal bus. So school bus driving was fun. I'm out at one of our drivers had an accident. Supervisor grabbed me to bring a spare bus and follow her out to the accident site. I'm sitting out there and talking to the driver. We're waiting for highway patrol to come. Because if you have a school bus accident, any accident involving a school bus with children on board, highway patrol has to come out and do an investigation. California state law. It's on the books. So we're sitting out there. I'm talking to the drivers. I'm checking to make sure the kids are okay. Everybody's fine. There's no injuries. It's a minor accident with a bus. Bus got T-boned. Kids are fine. Driver's fine. I go walking over to my supervisor and I look over their shoulder and she's writing the report like it's our driver's fault. And it's like, no. Okay, I got a big mouth. I shouldn't talk sometimes. And so that's not what it is. He said, no, I don't care what the driver says, it's the driver's fault. So I could see from just looking the direction the bus is facing. The bus should be facing the other direction. So the bus driver made a wrong turn, hit a car, la-di-da. And it's like, okay, is this where you keep your mouth shut so you have a job when you get back? Or do you still speak up? So I just sat there and closed my mouth and didn't say another thing, just went walking back to where the bus was and was looking at the street and reading the scene from my training a year earlier. I can tell what happened there. Highway patrol officer shows up and start talking to him. Supervisor's there and says, man, your driver did a good job, look at that. She kept it together, there's no injuries, there's no more damages. CHP officer saw what I saw. He commended our driver. Supervisor looked at me and said, show me. Okay, showed her. Fast forward a year later, my company has a new contract they've gotten. It's called Foothill Transit, where we're running local buses for routes that RTD used to have, Southern California Rapid Transit District. We're still running a school bus operation, but our yard now has 11 transit buses. We'll be having 11 transit buses, drivers, everything else. I applied for the job and I get it. I'm no longer a school bus driver. My new title is transit supervisor, where I'm the classroom trainer teaching transit, teaching behind the wheel for transit, and then I also fell into the job of charter dispatcher. And then field supervisor for the buses, so I started wearing multiple hats for the same project. In contract operations, when you work for a contractor, the time I was working for Laidlaw, you wear multiple hats. So when I wasn't out on the road checking on my drivers, I was covering dispatch for school bus routes. I was training new drivers. I was busy camper. I was shuttling new buses to paint shop where they had made mistakes on painting the buses and all kinds of stuff. It was a very, very busy December and January. And see what, when did I start here? Sorry, I'm getting old, so I gotta remember stuff. Became supervisor in October 1987. Service started December 1987. And then one day a bus for one of our contractors had a Laidlaw driver in a charter bus had an accident in Pomona. I was the closest supervisor, so I got tapped on the shoulder and they sent me out and investigate the accident. After that, word got out that I know what I'm doing. So anytime that my company had an accident between the 15 freeway on the east side, my yard was in Upland, and then all the way to the 605 freeway going west. Any Laidlaw buses, school bus, transit bus, charter bus, any bus had an accident, they'd send me. Because I could respond from Upland faster than a supervisor could respond from Los Angeles, or could respond from Riverside, or from any of the other yards. So from basically 87 to 91, I investigated a lot of accidents. Wrote an article for Bus Conversion magazine 5 years ago where I said, well, I investigated over 250, that's right, 250 bus versus something accidents. Bus hits a railroad crossing gate. Driver, a little high on marijuana, takes their small van through the drive-through window at McDonald's. Bus versus fire hydrants. Bus versus sprinklers in a yard. Bus versus mailbox. Bus, you name it. I got to go out and investigate it. And when you're doing an investigation, it could be as simple as you go out, you take a look around, say, yep, I see where the bus hit the fire hydrant. Yeah, I see where the bus hit the mailbox. Bus versus vehicle, you're out there, you're investigating. Sometimes, like in the movies, you're laying on the ground and you're looking at skid mark to see how high the rubber is up to the point of the accident. You're doing mathematical equations, figuring how fast the cars were going at to create this type of damage. All kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun. You had templates. I'd pull them out so I could do drawings to show a bus hitting a car, and you color in like a dent in the side of the car or in the front of the bus, and then fill out the rest of the template showing everything. You show intersections where the traffic lights are, where the crosswalks is, how many feet from this point to that point. It was a lot of work involved. But it was fun. It got you out of the office. Fortunately, we never had any major injuries on our side that I investigated with the school buses. I did have one where I look back now and it's comical and I laugh about it and there's no stress involved, where our bus was at an intersection in Pomona. I forget the street. The bus was going westbound on a cross street coming up on Gary. A Honda Accord and a Datsun B210 are in a collision. A bolt from the collision of the other two cars flies up in the air, goes about 35 feet, hits the front of our school bus, and cracks the windshield. Okay? The bus is in a school bus accident. The bus is damaged from an accident. It has students on board. The bus has to park. Driver calls it in. They send me out. I get out there, and the cops are out there investigating. The driver of the Honda Accord had what we used to have in cars back in the late 80s called passive seatbelt. You would sit down in the driver's seat. When you closed the door, the seatbelt would automatically, a shoulder harness would automatically come up and lock in place at your left shoulder blade. You kind of like step into the seatbelt when you sit down, and it would come and lock you. And then you were supposed to put on a lap belt to finish the transaction, so to speak. Well, when the Datsun broadsided the Honda, it released that passive seatbelt, which caused the Honda driver to go through the windshield and become an instant fatality. So, our accident scene, we have a school bus accident that's considered a fatal school bus accident. Again, nobody on the bus is hurt. Everybody on the bus is fine, but just the way it works. So I go walking over there, and I've got two motor cops. The officers that ride the motorcycles are called motors, or motorcycle officers. And they are doing the investigation of their careers. They're out there, they've got surveyor transits, they're measuring the intersection, they're doing everything. The coroner's already come by and taken the body away, but they're still out there taking measurements, and the tow trucks are on the way. They're being blocked currently by the police tape, do not cross this line. I go walking over to the officers doing the report, and trying to figure out which way the truck's going. The truck's leaving. And I stand on the outside of the do not pass police tape. And I call over to one of the officers and tell him that CHP's on the way. And it would be best not to move any of the vehicles until after CHP got there. Well, I ticked one of them off. Just my nature, I guess. And he told me in certain terms that I needed to leave. No stopping, no stopping. No sign there, I can stop. And it's like I looked at the other one. I told him the same thing. CHP's coming. Don't move the tow trucks. Don't let anybody move the vehicles. And he summoned another cop over, and the other cop took me. I wanted to say I was in custody. They just basically walked me over, put me in the back of a police car, and closed the door. They were tired of me talking to them. So I'm sitting on my hands because I got nothing better to do. And CHP shows up. Officer parks his car by our school bus. He comes walking up. I wave at him to the back of a police car. We know each other. We do a lot of accidents. He comes over, opens up the door, asks me what's going on. The officer didn't like the idea of the CHP officer opening up the door and letting me out. Everybody's got their issues. So he asked me what's going on. I tell him this is what's going on. Fatal accident over there. Basically what happened from what I can see on the scene, the T-bone intersection, fatal driver in the Honda. Loose bolt or something flying through the sky, striking the front of our bus, cracking the windshield. I told him we have another bus on its way to relieve this one. And here's all the information from our driver, showing the students' names, their ages, where they were sitting, along with the information from the driver and all the information for the bus and insurance, etc. And then the chippy says, well, why are you sitting in the back of the car? I told him, well, I tried to inform the two motor officers that the CHP was on their way and that they shouldn't move any of the vehicles, so the tow trucks are right over there, until you had an opportunity to do your report. And that was irritating to them for some odd reason, so here we go. He looked at one cop, says, is he in custody? He says, no, he's just being, I was being a pain, and they just wanted me to quit harassing the officers while they were doing their job. The chippy grabs his radio, says something into the radio. I missed that conversation because my driver called me over with a question. And then the 5 minutes later, another CHP officer shows up. This time it's a sergeant on a bike, so he's also a motor officer. And the two officers have a little chit chat, and this was fun. The motorcycle cop goes walking over to me and says, okay, tell me what happened. Tell him what happened. He goes walking over to the yellow do not police cross sign that's across the intersection, grabs the tape and breaks it, and tells me to come along. So the two of us are walking into these guys' accident scene. Oh, talk about ruffled feathers. one of the cops said, What are you doing? He can't be in here. And the CHP motor officer looks and says, he needs information for his report on the driver of this vehicle, the driver of that vehicle, the registrations and everything else. And the cop says, why? And then the CHP officer points over, because you didn't listen to him. See that school bus parked over there? Yeah? It's part of this accident. It has a broken windshield because a part came off of these cars. Therefore, this whole accident scene comes under the jurisdiction of the California Highway Patrol. Thank you for what you've done so far. I would like your notes, and you guys are relieved. Oh, wait. No, sorry, that's the way it works. This is a school bus accident. And when you put up your tape, you should have included the school bus, because the school bus is involved in the accident. And it was fun. I mean, it was tense for a little while because I thought I was going to jail. But CHP got their information from the cops. I got to copy the cops' notes to fill out my accident report. Because we had all the paperwork filled out for CHP on our bus, as soon as the relief bus got there, we transferred the kids to the new bus, backed it out, sent it up the side street with a new driver, substitute driver, or actually I think it was a mechanic. Mechanic took the bus back to the yard, and then I was out there at that accident scene for, I think, another 30 minutes. Because it was going to be one of those interesting days in your career. So you've got two CHP officers finishing up. I'm out there holding the end of the measuring tape for the chippies while we're measuring the intersection and taking some measurements and whatnot. And 10 minutes later, here comes a couple of police cars. We get to meet a captain and a lieutenant, and I think a watch commander for the Pomona Police Department. They had an issue with Highway Patrol doing an accident investigation in their town. Talk about a turf war. And boy, they were not happy with a civilian standing near their accident scene. The sergeant educated the police officers on how school bus accidents run and how the investigation process and everything else. And he did it in such a tactful way that next time there was an accident involving either the Foothill Transit buses, which I oversaw in Pomona and Claremont, or if I had a school bus accident in their town, the officers were receptive and understood that I could be there. And after that, I had a really good relationship with the Pomona Police Department. In fact, I even got put on their graffiti task force for people who are vandalizing buses and other things in the city of Pomona. Most interesting times. So, didn't go to cop school. I went to cop school. I didn't become a cop because that wasn't the reason for going to cop school. But something had nothing to do with school bus driving, and I didn't know I was going to be a school bus driver back then, propelled me through my career in transportation. When in August 1991, let me back up a little bit. In April 1991, there was a major traffic collision on the busway in Rosemead. Two buses were running along the busway going eastbound. One bus, as they're coming up on the turnoff for El Monte Station, went into the right lane to enter the 10 freeway going east, and it was on its way to Diamond Bar. It was on discharge only. It was a Foothill Transit bus. Bus number 2 is an Inland Empire Connection Neil plan. He's running, and he's doing line 496. He's going into El Monte Station, and then after El Monte Station, he'd be on side streets and then get back on the 10 freeway and continue east. Well, the Foothill Transit bus peels off and starts slowing down because it's entering stop traffic. The 496 says, well, I got nothing in front of me. He punches it to get into El Monte Station, maybe a minute, 2 minutes faster, and stay on schedule. So now the Foothill Transit, or the Inland Empire Mule Plan, he's up to about, say, from 45, he's up to 60 miles an hour. The Foothill Transit bus is probably doing 40 miles an hour, and he makes a stupid decision. He goes, well, I'll just swing back over and go into through El Monte Station. Well, the two buses hit. One doing 60 hit the one doing 40. 120 people went to the hospital because of the decision the Foothill Transit driver made. And both buses were loaded. They both had about 60 people on board. Some had standees. The Foothill bus had standees in it. The Inland Empire bus had, I think, 5 or 6 standees. Like I said, this is 1991, so my memory isn't perfect anymore. The driver was, our driver, Laidlaw had the contract for the 496. He was pinned behind the driver's seat from the collision. The collision caused the, hitting the back of the Foothill Transit bus caused the the crankshaft to go through the engine, pierce the transmission, and back into that bus with dust. We got a call. My supervisor said, go. I grabbed the mechanic and my yellow supervisor van with a little yellow light in the back window, and we took off from Upland to Rosemead. We got there in about maybe 18 minutes. And that was including getting off the freeway at Rosemead Boulevard, going through a cloverleaf, getting back on the freeway, shooting across into the carpool lane, and getting up to where the buses were at. That was my first and only major traffic collision. We had no deaths, but it was apparent what caused the accident. So I was out there with my mechanic, and we were taking measurements and talking to passengers, and most of the people that rode the buses were commuters. So it was like they'd hand us a business card along with where they were sitting in the bus. I collected business cards. On the back of the business card, put down where they were sitting, put down if they had any injuries, their home phone numbers, anything else pertinent, and then into my pocket. And I had my camera with me. I had slide film on it because I can go shooting trains that weekend. So I burned off 24 slide photos, and then went through another 120 photographs. I was out there walking and talking to people and taking measurements and everything else. One of the contractors, whose office was over in Temple City, they came over because they'd heard about the accident, and they want to know what happened. I told them basically what happened, so they were tagging around with me. CHP left me alone. They knew I was representing one of the companies. 15 minutes later, my client shows up. Foothill Transit is my client. I take care of the local lines in Pomona. He comes out, says, what happened? And I had to look at my client and say, your bus caused this accident. Our driver's injured, and all these people are going to the hospital because of your driver. I guess that was, I made an impression because 4 months later they recruited me to come work for them. And then I worked for Foothill Transit for 2 years. Interesting times. My bus stop is just beyond this city bus stop, and I'm a couple of minutes early, and there's a guy mowing the lawns. I'm going to sit here. So, there's a wee bit of history. See you on the road.